A huge part of self-improvement is to level up yourself. Think of yourself like a character in a video game. You have a character and you need to level up their stats, right? You need to get better and better attributes to be able to progress further and further in the game and get better and better and better at it. But in order to actually level up those stats, you need to like learn new skills. You need to go out there and actually practice those skills. And that's really all that it is. It's just like leveling up in life is the same as leveling up in a video game. And we just need to focus a bit more on leveling up the stats rather than trying to breeze through life and go at everything with, full pelt. I think it's a really good idea to actually try and level yourself up. Strength and intelligence and, any like Dark Souls players might know about all the different attributes that your character can have. Well, the whole point is we want to be able to level up all these attributes so that we can be the best possible version of ourselves and go at everything with the most skill and effort. So I'm going to tell you a story. You have two guys, roughly the same age, quite young. Maybe they're like 22, 23, and they both work the same exact job. Every single day, one of the guys finishes his shift and he drives home and puts the radio on and listens to some music to just be able to unwind and de-stress from the day. And when he's on his way home, he thinks, I'm a little bit hungry and I've had a little bit of a stressful day, been in meetings all day and it's not been very fun. So I'm just gonna go treat myself. I'm just gonna go have a little treat. This guy pops into McDonald's drive-thru and he grabs himself a little McFlurry, just as a little treat because he wanted to reward himself. He's had a tough day, right? So, a little treat, nothing wrong with that. The other person, on the other hand, instead of listening to the radio on his way home, he's got a 30-minute commute, same as the other guy, and he actually sticks a podcast on. So he connects his phone up to the Bluetooth in the car, and he puts on a podcast, something good, something like Chris Williamson or Alex Hormozi, Andrew Huberman, some kind of intelligent podcast like that, something that's going to provide him some value on the things that he's interested in. These podcasts are all going to hold like valuable information on how to level himself up in his fitness, in his career, in his mind. And so for 30 minutes on the way home, he just listens to some podcasts, right? And then instead of going to McDonald's, he realizes that actually McDonald's isn't very good for you. So instead, I'm going to pop into the shops and I'm just going to buy some healthy snacks. I'm going to buy like some nuts or something like that. And then I'm going to go home. So you have two people that do everything in the day exactly the same as each other. They wake up, they have the same morning routine. They eat the same except for the stop off on the way back from work. They have the same day at work. And literally just by changing those two habits, right? What they listen to in the car on the way home and what they do just before they get home, like do they go to McDonald's to get a treat or do they go to the shops and get like a healthy snack? Literally just those two changes. One of those guys, the guy who just listens to the radio and, has a McFlurry on the way home, is going to be vastly behind the other dude who was like listening to podcasts and literally just didn't eat a McFlurry on the way home. In terms of two things. The guy who was listening to podcasts on the way home is just going to have this like background level of like knowledge and insight into the minds of like some really intelligent people that he listens to on them podcasts. And he might be more and more capable and just go over a threshold of maybe setting up a business or maybe setting up a YouTube channel or doing something different that could literally drastically change the course of his entire life because he's leveled up those attributes in his spare time. And because he hasn't gone to get a McFlurry every day from McDonald's on his way home, this guy is far more likely to actually be in shape. Because when you add up and compile just these two little changes over the course of like a year or 2 or 3 years, you have one guy who's having 3 years worth of like a little treat like a McFlurry after finishing work every day. He's going to be drastically different in terms of the way he looks. If he did everything else the same, right? If these two guys did everything the same, but that was the one difference in like the diet, that one guy is going to literally be overweight and the guy who didn't do that is going to be in great shape, feeling good. And then the guy who didn't listen to podcasts is going to be drastically under-skilled and have like a lot less insight into the things that he's interested in than the other guy who just made that one change. And the beauty of this kind of thought experiment is that this is just two little changes, and one of them is like physical and one of them is like a mental kind of like a difference. And the whole point of this kind of story is just to describe the first sort of habit that I want to talk to you about, which is the habit of upskilling yourself in your spare time. So when you have spare time available, whether it's going on a walk or whether it's, you're just going on the treadmill at the gym or you're driving to work, literally instead of just listening to music and like these rappers and stuff, maybe just switch it for just maybe a couple days of the week, or if you can the whole week, to something more beneficial that's going to actually upskill yourself. So like a podcast. Try and find your favorite podcaster. I would definitely start off, if you're interested in this channel and you're watching this video, you're probably going to be interested in these podcasters. I'd definitely say look at Chris Williamson, look at Andrew Huberman, look at Alex Hormozi. A bunch of these podcasters, they're all really good, and they all provide like loads of stuff to do with self-improvement, whether it's productivity or mindset changes, and like physical things like the gym. All these guys just cover all that kind of stuff. So you could literally, within 2 weeks of just listening to podcasts instead of the radio, you could massively upskill yourself. You could become literally an absolute expert in some really specific topic that you're interested in just through doing that. And it's not required you any extra time. So that is the first habit, is to literally take your spare time and try and overlay some upskilling things on top of that. And this can be like an audiobook as well, or you could literally just read in your spare time instead of like playing video games or scrolling through TikTok and Instagram. You could literally just read. I mean, that I can see why some people would find that a bit more boring. So I definitely start off, if you're not doing already like any upskilling, start off with the podcasts. I found for me that is by far the best source of information that I get, and like upskilling and knowledge is from podcasts, especially those 3 that I mentioned here. Okay, so the second habit that I would recommend to start leveling up your life is to just write things down. Now, this doesn't need to be immediately after you've learned something. So I was taught this advice often from podcasters and self-improvement YouTubers, was to always have a pen and paper with you and write things down as soon as you heard information that you thought was maybe beneficial or interesting. But what I've found is that I found it much easier to listen to a full podcast and kind of let the information digest and brew on it. And the stuff that I don't remember from the podcast, that's fine. It's just information that wasn't for me at the time. You might read a book or listen to an audiobook, and you might pick up on maybe 2 or 3 really good ideas that really stick with you, and you think, yes, that is a really good idea. Tim Ferriss has a good kind of framework around this, and he says good shit sticks. So you're going to be fed a lot of information, but Tim Ferriss has this idea that like 90% of the information that you get probably won't stick, right? You might remember it for a day or 2, but then you might just forget it. But this is like, this thing I heard of good shit sticks is something that's good shit for me. It's stuck for me. And that is the idea, that when it's good information and it's information that really resonates with you and is really for you right now at this time in your life, then it's going to stick. So you're going to listen to so much podcasts, you're going to read so many books, you're going to try and be upskilling yourself, like we said in the first habit, but only the really good stuff is going to stick. So when that stuff sticks, brew on it, think about it, expand it in your mind, come up with maybe your own twist on it. Maybe you even just disagree with it outright, and just think about it. And then what I do is on a night, when just before I'm about to go to bed, I'll just get my notepad out here and I'll literally just write down a couple ideas of some stuff that I've learned throughout the day or the week. So I'll just literally bullet point on the page and just start freestyling, just writing some ideas down of some stuff I found interesting. Literally can be anything. It literally can be the thing that I've just told you right there and then about the good shit sticks. It could be that, right? And then if you've written it down, it's way more likely to kind of be concrete in your brain by actually physically writing it down. And I find that, just writing things down with like a physical pen and paper is just a good habit for me to do pretty much like daily or just every 2 days. Or you could even do this as like a weekly task at the end of the week. Be like, right, what have I learned over the week? And it might just be 1 or 2 things. But those 1 or 2 things, like we said from the first story in the beginning, could be the difference between you starting a business or having a business idea, or it literally could be the difference in you leveling up an attribute to the point where you're able to actually go ahead and do something. Right guys, remember, just improve yourself by 1% every day and you'll get there. See ya.